蓮華経南無蓮華経妙法蓮華経弁本第二二次生尊十三枚安常二期
五舍利四
初勝負知恵人人無量語知恵門難下難
Listen, those of you who are practicing Nichiren Buddhism, you should follow the teachings of Nichiren Shonin. Nichiren Shonin says, exert yourself in the two ways of practice and study, but without practice and study, there can be no Buddhism. This is what the Gosho, the true entity of life, says. He says, not only should you persevere yourself, but you should teach others to the best of your ability, if only a single phrase or sentence. Now, you just heard the Nichiren Shoshu priests do gongyo, or the start of a slow gongyo, or the recitation of the Lotus Sutra. Now, it is Nichiren that says you should study Buddhism. You should exert yourself into practice and study. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 2014, and you have people today living in a culture of ignorance. It is a culture of ignorance when you have people reciting the Lotus Sutra in Shindoku or in Japanese, and you don't know what the hell you are saying. It is ignorance. Now, mind you, me, Anthony of Elmore, I was once upon a time a Nichiren Shoshu Buddhist, and I practiced with the SGI, and I practiced with Nichiren Shoshu. And for years, we would recite the Lotus Sutra in Shindoku. And you don't know what the hell you are saying. This is stupid. This is ignorance. That is, listen. Listen to me. Listen. There is no inherent value in reciting the Lotus Sutra in Shindoku or in Japanese. Now, in his last speech, in the Nirvana Sutra, it is Shakyamuni Buddha says, put faith in the law and not in persons. Now, those of you who are Nichiren Shoshu and SGI Buddhist and some of the Nichiren Shu, you are not following the guidance of Nichiren Shonin. Now, let's get into this, because our lecture today, it is called Understanding the Teachings of Buddhism as the Lotus Sutra. Now, what you have today and what you have in the Nichiren sets, you got Nichiren sets who are not practicing the Lotus Sutra. Now, for 40 years, I was a Nichiren Shoshu Buddhist. And for 40 years, I have been trying, and I've been digging, and I have been researching, trying to get to the essence of the teachings. And every time I try to get to the essence of the teachings, people would throw me a curveball. And it was only after 40 years of getting rejected by the SGI, getting rejected by Nichiren Shoshu, getting rejected by Nichiren Shu, that I eventually came to my senses, because I went ahead and studied Buddhism the way that Nichiren Shonin expected us to learn Buddhism and practice Buddhism correctly. Because the correct teachings of Nichiren Buddhism is faith in the Lotus Sutra. Now, let's get into this thing and let's teach you something. Now, one of the things, ladies and gentlemen, that I offer, that Anthony Elmore bring to the table, I bring to the table an African and African-American cultural perspective. We are the proud Black Buddhist World Association. Now, what does that mean, being the proud Black Buddhist World Association? It means that we teach Buddhism inclusive of African and African-American culture and history. We teach a Buddhism of equality of all humankind. Now, when you study the teachings of Buddhism, when you study Gongyo, when you get an understanding of what's going on, then you begin to know and learn that the Buddhism that's being taught is not the Lotus Sutra, it is not the teachings of Nichiren, but this is what the Japanese teach. They teach you a culture. And the first thing I want you to understand is that when you learn the Gongyo prayers, or you recite the Lotus prayers in Shindoku or in Japanese, there is no inherent value to this. Please understand that Buddhism did not get to Japan until 1,000 years after the death of the Buddha Shakyamuni. Didn't get there to 1,000 years. It was just about 1,000 years when Kinnamajiva translated the Lotus Sutra into Chinese. Almost 1,000 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, Buddhism is not an Oriental religion. Buddhism is a religion that didn't start in Japan or the Orient. Buddhism started in the country of India. The country of India, or the ancient India, was not known as India. It was called Eastern Ethiopia, and the people who were there, the indigenous people who are called Dalits in India, they are the indigenous people of India. But let's get into the study of Buddhism and let's try to correct some of the things, or correct some of the ills. So we are going to give you an African and African-American perspective, and you need someone who can come in and teach people of African descent and all humanity the correct teachings, just like Dr. Martin Luther King and others out of the African-American community made America stand up to the tenets of the Constitution. It is going to be us who's going to make the Japanese and bring Buddhism and the true Buddhism of Shakyamuni to the contemporary and modern world. Just recently, I was contacted by 2,000 Indians, a representative of 2,000 Indians who had kicked out Nichiren Shoshu, and they kicked out the SGI for reasons of racism because they do not teach Buddhism according to the Lotus Sutra. But let's get into it. Now, let's see where we're going to start at. First of all, Nichiren was beaten about the bush, and some Japanese scholars even insist that Nichiren only considered himself a human being. Nichiren never considered himself the true Buddha, but it should come as no surprise if the radical Nichirenists identify Nichiren as the only true Buddha in this universe. If one knows the unique Japanese sense of distinctiveness, the attitude of superiority, and sometimes contempt for others. Now, let me give you a good example. In the Chinese emperor calls himself Ten Shi, which means son of heaven court. Now, the Japanese emperor, on the other hand, called himself Tenno, king of heaven court. What you have in the Buddhist teachings and the kind of Buddhist teachings that the Japanese, mainly Nichiren Shoshu and the SGI and some of the others are teaching, they are teaching a religion of Japanese superiority. Now, most Nichiren sects see Nichiren as the incarnation of Bodhisattva Chogyo, one of the four Bodhisattvas of Buddha Shakyamuni, as expounded in the 15th of the Lotus Sutra. But Nichiren Shoshu sees Nichiren as the incarnation of the eternal Buddha, who is not the historical Shakyamuni. According to Nichiren Shoshu doctrine, there exists an eternal Buddha, but the historical Shakyamuni could not attain enlightenment to this stage because his teaching was too primitive. The true Buddha or original Buddha is Nichiren, and he is regarded as superior than the historical Shakyamuni. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what Nichiren Shoshu teaches. Now, because Nichiren is regarded as the true Buddha, the object of worship in Nichiren Shoshu is a large camphor wood plank called the Daigo Hansen, or the supreme object of worship. Now, and it's called, what's carved on is Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Now, Nichiren Shoshu claims that the wooden Daigo Hansen presently enshrined in his head temple, that Taiseigaji temple, was inscribed by Nichiren, who had infused his Buddha life into it. This is Nichiren Shoshu. Now, when you begin to look outside of the realm of the SGI and you look outside the realm of the Nichiren Shoshu and you look into other Nichiren sects, this is what they say. It says, accordingly to other Nichiren sects, the idea of Buddha Nichiren did not originate with Nichiren. Again, it says the idea of Buddha Nichiren did not originate with Nichiren or Nikko, but it is the brainchild of Nichiren, this in 1408 and 1402, in the Chikan, 1665 to 1726, the 9th and 26th high priests, respectively, of Taiseigaji Temple. Other Nichiren sects say that Nichiren Shoshu and the Soka altered the Gosho, that is, the major writings, in order to fit its doctrine and theories. Nichiren Shoshu and the Soka Gakkai is said to have eliminated a lot of the eternal Shakyamuni in the original Gosho and replaced it with either Shakyamuni or original Buddha, so that it can add footnotes that read, quote, Nichiren says Shakyamuni, but he is referring to himself as the true Buddha. Other Nichiren sects also say that many forged documents originated from Taiseigaji Temple between the 15th and 18th centuries. They say that in reality, Nichiren is the true founder of Nichiren Shoshu, not Nichiren or Nikko. They say that although it is innovative to interpret Nichiren as the true Buddha, it actually goes against Nichiren teachings, because Nichiren had the greatest and the deepest respect for Shakyamuni Buddha. But what you have is that you have people in Nichiren Shoshu that teach or go on forged documents. Let us understand the Lotus Sutra. The Buddha Shakyamuni said in his last sermon, put faith in the law and not put faith in persons. In Nichiren Shoshu religion, they do not put faith in the Lotus Sutra or the law, but the faith is put in the high priest. Now, in other Nichiren sects, the law is the Lotus Sutra. Now, it says this: because Nichiren is regarded as the true Buddha, the object of worship is, in Nichiren Shoshu, is the Daigo Hanzan. And the Daigo Hanzan comes with an inheritance, or the Buddha's inheritance is not Shakyamuni, but the Buddha's inheritance is given to one person, namely the high priest of Nichiren Shoshu, and not the Lotus Sutra. Other Nichiren sects repudiate this. Now, one thing that you must understand, ladies and gentlemen, that when you do Gongyo, when you are doing Gongyo, when you are reciting the Lotus Sutra, do you understand what you are doing in Nichiren Shoshu? Do you understand what you are doing in the SGI? Now, understand, it says, told us, Jose told us lecture on the Sutra, says, the 26 high priests of Taiseki, Nichiren's right, we recite the Hobenpon chapter 2 of the Lotus Sutra to smash the provisional Lotus Sutra. Then we recite the Juryahan chapter, that's chapter 16, to smash the Hobenpon. Then we recite the Daimoku to smash the Juryahan. Now listen, ladies and gentlemen, there is no benefit in chanting or doing Gongyo in Japanese. When you doing this Gongyo in Japanese, and when you are reciting this Gongyo in the Japanese with Nichiren Shoshu and the SGI, and you are doing this in Shindoku, you are actually repudiating. You are actually rejecting Shakyamuni Buddha as the Buddha. The Lotus Sutra itself, Shakyamuni says he is the Buddha. And this is not the correct teachings. But anyway, we're going to bring this lecture to a close. And again, I will tell you, it is ignorance to recite the Lotus Sutra and not knowing what you are saying. Buddhism is about enlightenment. It's about wisdom. It is not wisdom, ladies and gentlemen, to recite something and you don't know what the hell you are saying. That is ignorance. That's a con job, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm trying to warn you, this is no good. But let me bring this lecture to a close. Now, there is a Gosho called the recitation of the expedient means and lifespan chapter. I think this is called, and Nichiren Shu calls it the Gosho. It says, and this is what Nichiren says in the Gosho, he says, as for the Lotus Sutra, one may recite the entire sutra of 28 chapters and 8 volumes every day, or one may recite only one volume or one chapter or one verse or one phrase or one word, or one may simply chant the Daimoku Nam Myoho Renge Kyo once a day, or chant it only once in the course of a lifetime, or hear someone else chant it only once in the lifetime and rejoice in the hearing, or rejoice in the hearing the voice of someone else, rejoice in the hearing, and so on. in this matter to the fifth hearer. So, the Lotus Sutra is the road to Buddhahood by only embracing the Lotus Sutra. And let me close with one quote from the Gosho, the recitation of expedient means and lifespan chapter. It says, not even the wisdom of the Buddha can fathom the blessings such a person will obtain. The Buddha wisdom is so marvelous that it even knows even the number of raindrops that fall in a major world system during a period, for instance, of 7 days or twice 7 days. And yet, we read that the blessings acquired by one who recites no more than a single word of the Lotus Sutra are the one thing that it cannot fathom. How then could ordinary people like ourselves, who have committed grave offenses, possibly understand these blessings? The blessings, ladies and gentlemen, come from us reading the Lotus Sutra. I challenge you to do and learn, do the Lotus Sutra in English, practice the Lotus Sutra in English, and put the Lotus Sutra first. Put faith in the law and not persons. I thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed our lecture. Thank you. Get down on my knees and I pray every day. I pray the Lord will suit your way. I pray every day.